Saurabh, hi, good to have you with us. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Saurabh, good to have you with us.
Thank you
And
for.
I'm excited about our discussion, Saurabh, right?
Yeah,
And
same here. Same here.
largely because agri is something which is been very close to my heart, right? And I think with the way things have shaped up in the agri ecosystem in the last couple of years has been absolutely spectacular and phenomenal, right? I think the good part is that earlier agri was the not so glamorous side of the business. The good part is this wave of consumerism that is coming in, the awareness that has come in, right? I think is pushing the entire agri ecosystem in a very different way, right? And the good part is that the adoption is absolutely spectacular, right? The way information is, for example, flowing in still farmers, the way financing is available. Of course, there are certain dichotomies that still exist, right? But as a sector, it's moved phenomenally. I think today the farmer is a lot more empowered. Gaps that are there will possibly get filled, right? And the government at a policy level has been very agile. They've been trying to bring in systems that modernize the possibility of trade and growth overall. So in that context, it's good to have you with us. You've been on the input side of things, right? At GrowIt, you are essentially enabling a lot of these farmers to build efficiency into their processes and basically decrease the gap in losses, right? Which can possibly come in from infestation and and a variety of other issues. You're on the supply side, right? And you're helping them solve that. GrowIt has become a very critical and a prominent player in the recent past, right? We're going to discuss about all of that. But we'll start this conversation with a quick round introduction, Saurabh. If you could introduce yourself, that'd be a great start.
Sure, sure. So I'm Saurabh Agarwal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GrowIt. And GrowIt is predominantly in the space of input side for the agri business. What we identified in our past few years in the agri sector is that there are many people who are working on the seeds, pesticide side. A lot of people are working on the technology side. A lot of people working on the output, which is logistics side, and connecting the sort of farm to retail or the farm to fork concept and all that.
Sure.
But there were very, very few people who were actually working on the farmer producer increase. The farm increase, the actual farm output increase. So when we deep dove into the data, we found that India's average output per acre or per hectare is 1/5 of that of global average. So yeah, that is what intrigued me, and I've been doing farming myself for past 5 years, and I got good results. So that's when I sort of read these data and started meeting a few farmers nearby my hometown, that is Surat, and I started collecting some data and found that we can do much more on this front, and that is how GrowIt came into being. And we thought that let's try and bridge that gap and close that gap with the global average that we have.
Interesting. Super. Fantastic. Saurabh, I'd love you to give us a sense in terms of the products that you're doing, right? And why do I want to do that is, usually in my conversations, I typically, line up, talk about the challenges and stuff like that, right? I think it becomes important that we discuss the products because you, one, are doing, many SKUs, right? And I think a lot of people who want to listen to this, right? While efficiency and output is something that people understand, right? I think we need to understand the nitty-gritties of, farming, right? And it's a complex environment that you have to deal with, right? And your products need a better an explanation for people to understand the conversation better, right? So it would be great if you could explain us the product line that you have and the impact of that within the agri or the farm ecosystem.
Sure. So when we were working on the agri front, on the input side, we went around the globe, me and my brother, and we were trying to find out what is the technology that is not being adopted in India, because of which the yield is so low as compared to the global average. So what intrigued us is that the adoption of protective farming, which is called controlling the microenvironment around the plant. The adoption rate of these technologies or these products around the globe is above 60 to 70%, and the adoption rate of the same technology in India is not even 1 to 2%. So that is where we started understanding what these protective technologies are, what are the products behind this protective technology, how has Israel evolved this technology. So we commonly know a product called greenhouse. We have all heard of a product called greenhouse. But greenhouse is very expensive, and greenhouse is for the progressive farmers who have tons of money to invest into that kind of structure. So we started studying about what can be done at a smaller level, at a smaller ticket size for the farmers to slowly progress towards the greenhouse technologies. So a couple of products that I would like to mention here is there is something called Mulch Film, which is laid down onto the farm once the drip irrigation is there on the farm. What it does is it protects the soil from extra, macro environment, extra heat, extra water, or maybe extra erosion of soil, hard use of pesticides, those kind of things it protects against. So the adoption rate of that was eventually almost non-existent in India. So when we started understanding these products, we found that it has a lot of synergy, and it can be done with a farmer as low with a ticket size of just 10,000 rupees per acre. So the adoption rate of with a small ticket size, the farmers started adopting this a little more. But the challenge that we faced in percolating this kind of products was that the farmers' awareness levels were very, very low. They were not aware about this kind of products.
Right.
That's why we changed our whole distribution channel and the whole model of the business, and we went into the franchise model. So currently we have around close to 150 odd franchises in 4 states, that is Maharashtra, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, and Gujarat.
Right.
So what we did through this franchise stores is that we created some demo farms, what we call as grow kshetras, in every taluka, where the live products were displayed on the live crops at the farmland, and we called the farmers from nearby villages to learn about this product. So our ground team of agronomists is always there at the ground level to teach these farmers about the adoption of the technologies, how they can benefit them, and what demo farms were also owned by the franchise stores. So if the franchise store himself is getting results on his own farm, the conviction level goes up. So the franchisor was also able to convince farmers, because he was able to tell his own story in a sense, and he became our own influencer.
Right. Very
so, yeah, that's how we sort of interlinked everything, and that gave us good results. And this year we actually also raised our first fundraise round to sort of expand our reach, and we are targeting around 400 to 500 retail franchise stores by the end of this year.
Interesting. So we're going to talk about that in just a bit, right? But I'd love to understand the impact of application of such products. Of course, you've given us a view of one, right? Which is the mulching sheets, right? But I'm saying, if you want to give us an overall perspective in terms of what's been the impact of implementing all of this, it will be phenomenal, right? Because some of the issues that you're kind of highlighting, right, which is excessive moisture, excessive heat, right? And I think more importantly, this lack of awareness. I think that shift has already happened, right? Because now there are a lot of other systems that have come in, which are indicated, right? Farmers today have a lot more information, right? Because now weather data is also available. There's a lot of predictive stuff which is now starting to happen, right? So I think last 2.5 years has been absolutely spectacular from a change standpoint, right? Plus, KVKs have come up, right? So Krishi Vikas Kendras have come up. There's a lot of information distribution which is happening from there, and all that, right? I'd love to understand the impact of it, right? Because all of this that is happening is more informative, right? This is not actionable. What you are doing is actionable, right? So we'd love to understand the impact of it, and how this entire ecosystem shift has helped you do better. I'd love to understand that.
Right. So if I talk of key 4 or 5 impacts of 3 or 4 products that we do. So one is mulch film, as I spoke about. The second is crop cover, which is like a protective cover. Kavach ki tarah bol sakte hain usko, which is like a protective cover for the fruits and vegetables. The third is agri wire, agri support net. Then there is something called a tunnel, which is made out of crop cover, which is called a mini greenhouse. Then there is a fruit cover, banana bunch cover. Those kind of products are there, which we are doing. Shade net, shade house. So these are the products. So the key things that these products actually do is basically a lot of people have implemented drip irrigation on their farmlands, but that has reduced consumption of water to a lot of extent. But still, because of that, farmlands are open and the heat wave is increasing day by day. You must be reading about the heat wave this year, right?
Yes.
So because of that, the water evaporation is still not stopped. So a farmer, say, for example, if he's running drip for 6 to 8 hours in a day, with the application of our products, that drip line has to be run only for 2 to 4 hours. So we further reduce the need of water, and we conserve the moisture for the plants to grow better. So generally plants need a moist sort of a soil to grow faster, and that is what we enable. And then one of the key challenges that the farmers face today is labor issues, because even at the rural level, labor is becoming more and more problematic because the people are moving towards the urban areas, or they're moving for different jobs. the prices are increasing. So the major reason why labor is used is to remove the weeds, the unnecessary weeds that grow around the plant. So to remove those weeds periodically, every week or 10 days, the farmer use labor to remove that, because they cannot be removed with a machine, because those kind of machines are not prevalent in India.
Sure.
Because the land size in India is predominantly very small.
Right.
And the other thing that farmers use is weedicides. Now, weedicides are also, to a certain extent, they cannot be avoided, but after a certain point, they are also harmful for the soil and for the environment. So what we found is that our products actually eliminate the growth of the weed. So basically, to grow anything, we need two things, that is light and water. So water is there, but what we do is, with our products being laid onto the field, we cut off the light, and just by cutting off the light, that weed doesn't grow. So that is how we actually eliminate the need of the.
That's one of the ways.
Yeah. So that is how we reduce cost. So that is one of the ways. The second thing that we do is, because we depend a lot on the rainy season for a lot of our crops. In the rainy season, what happens is that the farmers do farming on a raised bed. Those raised beds get washed away during the rainy season, so it also prevents the soil erosion because of excess of water on the rains. The third is, it reduces the use of pesticides, because now we have plants only in small spaces where there are holes, and the remaining areas are just covered with the film, so that the weeds don't grow. So whatever the farmer is giving, the water, pesticides or fertilizers, is given only to the specific area for the plant to grow better. So concentrated growth is given to the plant, and that is why the yield is much higher.
Interesting.
So with the use of just the simple products, the yield actually grows by 40 to 50%, and in some cases, in some crops, it goes by almost 200 to 300% also.
Wow, interesting. So, before I step into the challenges, right, and there are quite a few challenges, when you talk about such huge usage of technology, right, and these challenges are very, very important. We're going to talk about it in just a bit, right. Labor is just one of the challenges that you highlighted in the point that you made, right. What I would love to understand is that, what are the crops that you're covering right now? So for example, if you were to give me a spread across the year, right, across various varieties of crop, right, where is the consumption the highest? Which are the ones you're going after?
Right. So our focus is mainly horticulture department, which is fruits and vegetables. So fruits, in fruits, if I talk about, we cover fruits like banana, pomegranate, papaya, mangoes, watermelons, berries. So these are the kind of fruits that we cover. And if I talk in terms of vegetables, mainly our staple crops like potatoes, onions, tomatoes, all the gourd families like ridge gourd, bottle gourd, bitter gourds. Then we do garlic, haldi, turmeric. Then we do brinjal, okra. These are the kind of crops that we cover. If I talk in the terms of major consumption, the 3 or 4 major consuming crops right now in India, which are tomato, chili, onions. So these are the crops which are widely being cultivated under this kind of technologies now. In the past 5 years, I think the technology adoption rate is growing up slowly and gradually.
Interesting. So when we talk of horticulture, right, I mean, one constant and one of the biggest challenges is that you have fewer large institutionalized players, and you have many marginal farmers, right, who are doing this to run their households and as a side income generation activity, so on and so forth, right. That's a very fundamental problem, right. I'd love to understand what's the largest market opportunity that you are chasing, right? Because a lot of these smaller players are, and like I said, they're fringe players, right? This might not necessarily be a very serious sort of they might not have the resources, right? This might not be a very serious sort of an element in their operational mindset, right? So what kind of market opportunity are we talking about? Or is this a very diverse, spread out market opportunity and difficult to calculate, right? Because that's something which is very prominent when we talk of agriculture in India. Not everything is trackable, right? Because there are just so many interest groups. It gets very difficult, right? I'd love to understand, how large is this space?
Yeah. So if I talk just about sort of number, if we cover the whole horticulture sort of arable land that is being used in India, it's more than a $6 billion opportunity in India. And now if I deep dive into the sort of the segregation of the farmers, you're correct. 80% of our farmers are marginal farmers who own about 1 to 2 acres of land. And then sort of 10-15% are the farmers who are above between 5 to 10 acres of land, and then remaining are the larger ones.
Right.
So here what happens is that, Ashu, a lot of drip irrigation companies who have penetrated drip irrigation in India, have already converted a lot of farmers, because drip is something which is key primary to the fertigation of any crop. And the drip irrigation penetration has happened very nicely in past 20-25 years. So close to 15 to 20% of our arable land is covered under drip irrigation right now. Even if I talk about covering the drip irrigation land and implementing our products on that land, it's more than a $2 billion opportunity right now.
Right.
So what happens is that any farmer who's above 1 acre is a sort of a good farmer for us, because that gives us a sizable amount to play around with. And the adoption, the farmer who has about 1 acre of land generally does a revenue of around between 5 to 6 lakhs per annum in his land area. Right. And the adoption rate of this technology, by just spending about 20-25K per annum on these products that we have, he can actually increase his revenue to almost 14 to 15 lakh rupees. So which actually helps him to grow his revenue 3 times.
Interesting. While you say that, and I think market forces are very there are continuous aberrations, right? So I think the output, the potential of output is definitely there, but I think how the prices play out really is not in the control. I think of anybody in that sense, right? Now, Saurabh, I'm going to come to some specific challenges, right? Now, we've discussed about 3 challenges largely, right? One is that of labor, and I think that's a constant problem, right? And there we are seeing a lot of mechanization, number and adoption of mechanization, stuff like that, right? Unfortunately, the problem there is that you have smaller parcels of land, right? Which make it expensive. The other very big problem is that of financing, and that leads into adoption. Now, while you're saying what you're saying, right? Financing is still a very, very large problem, right? Financial institutions, for whatever help, whatever work that they've done, have only been able to create a very limited level of impact, largely because there is very little or no digital footprint whatsoever, right? That leads into, deferred demand, right? And then, also adoption becomes a big sort of challenge, right? What's your sense of it, right? I mean, are you in any way, while you're doing what you're doing, right? Are you in any way, giving that comfort to the farmers, right? To adopt better through ease in financing or in, passing on certain benefits, right? Could be possibly market linkages, right? Because today a lot of people are now looking at market linkages as an extension, right? And that becomes a risk mitigation and a management mechanism, right? And farmers are also comfortable to sort of then go out and do a bunch of things, right? That you need to do. What are some things that you are doing on the ground? I'd love to understand.
Yeah. So Ashu, as I said, coming from a traditional sort of a business mindset, we always look at how we can do a larger business. And with GrowIt, what we are trying to do is, now that we have a sort of a platform which is functioning for us and we have a sizable amount of revenue with us in this particular case, what we are now trying to do is collaboration. Right. You rightly said, that agri finance is something which is widely being looked at by many startups, right. Many prominent players, even players like L&T or Reliance or right. Tata Sons, they are all into this space somehow. So microfinancing is something which already is being very prominent in India by the banks, by the private institutions. There are a lot of chit funds, there are a lot of trusts that are around. So if I talk of availability of finance to the farmers, I don't see a major challenge as on the ground. The farmers are getting lot of facilities from lot of ways. So yesterday itself, I was in a place in Gujarat called Dhulia. I was in Gujarat in a place called Mahua. So Pidilite Industries, I was surprised to know that Pidilite Industries is actually serving 15,000 farmers and providing them everything at a subsidized price. They are buying full price and they're giving it at a subsidized price as the CSR. Right. So these kind of things are happening in every nook and corner of India, but it's just that these kind of things don't get covered in the media, so we don't know about it. Right. But that said and done, what we are trying to do is we are trying to collaborate with a lot of startups who are already into this agri financing space. Probably if you might know somebody like a Samunnati or somebody like an AgroStar. Right. They are already into this space. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to collaborate with them, because they also need farmers to disburse their finances. That's their business model. So it makes sense to collaborate with different channel partners and work on a very collaborative model. And on the agri machinery front as well, we are trying to collaborate with a few people where we can provide agri machinery on rent. to the farmers, so that they don't have to buy a tractor or anything, and they can just rent it out for a day and do their work and give it back to the stores.
Interesting.
The third is market linkage you spoke about.
Right.
We are also trying to collaborate with a few startups who are already doing market linkage work, and they are doing brilliant job. So they are always on a lookout for more suppliers. Now with our franchise model, they have become like our collection hubs. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to get all the produce from the nearby farmers to our collection hubs, and from there the market linkage companies are coming up and picking them up. So that's how sort of it is helping to co-create this entire space and the ecosystem.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Sort of one other critical challenge, right? When you talk of the agri ecosystem, right? And that is that whatever products that you have, right, whatever IP that you sort of build, it gets replicated very, very quickly, right, with a cheaper alternative. And there are a lot of these, cottage industries that very quickly come up, right? And in a way, that just makes it very difficult for institutionalized there, right? Your large corporate costs can actually become, very heavy weight to carry on your shoulder. Like that is a huge problem. Now, the kind of at the range of products that you're doing, that is a very, very high possibility, right? Of cheaper, spurious products being available might be ineffective, right? So there is a certain demand destruction also happening in the process, right? How are you tackling that? I'd love to understand that.
Right. So you rightly sort of hit the nail on the right place. There are a lot of people who are manufacturing these products and at a very, very small level, at a very regional level. So in order to compete with these kind of people, what we did is we found that what are the kind of challenges that a farmer is facing after the use of this product. So since all of these products are based out of made out of a combination of plastic materials and the various technology materials, what we did is we are the only ones in India right now, because of our franchise model, we are able to tell the farmers that after the crop is over, you bring the material back to us, we will buy it back at a certain value, and we will take it back and recycle it.
Interesting.
Now this is a USP that we have created on our own because of our network and because of our ability of being in the plastic industry for so long. So we've been in the industry for 50 years. And we understand how to reprocess and how to sort of make it more environment friendly, so to say. So that is something which we have created as a USP. And the other reason why we are getting into sort of a collaboration with the agri finance guys or the market linkage guys is because that will give us multiple touch points with the farmer. And farmer always wants to get rid of his problems. So if we are trying to take care of the growing part as well as the finance part as well as the market linkage part, so I think that creates a whole channel for a farmer where he will be more pro to working with us rather than with a small regional player for just getting one supply of one product.
Right.
So I think the farmer wants to be in the whole ecosystem where he can sort of get more facilities done. Along with that, what we have done is we have created our own mobile app. We have our own media in-house team which works on complete social media channels, YouTube channels. So those sort of things we're working on. I think you touched upon a point with collaborations with associations like KVKs, FPOs. That is what we are doing, and we have now collaborated with more than 20 KVKs. We are now collaborated in more than 40-45 FPOs. So those kind of associations are also helping us in a deeper manner to sort of percolate better in the farmer associations. And once they have trust at a regional level on a particular KVK or an FPO, they generally don't tend to fluctuate.
Interesting. Yeah. I think the power of community starts to play in, right? And I think more importantly, sort of what I particularly like is I think this is a responsible business, right? Plastic is something that I think the world is talking about. The role of plastic and sustainability and so on and so forth, right? I think recycling becomes very important, and I think for a player like yourself, right? I've had the chance of speaking with many people. I haven't really come across a lot of people who are doing such setups, right? I think largely. Well, growing businesses are largely sales and revenue focused, right? And I think cleaning up what you're doing, I think just becomes so much more efficient, right? My sense is this is not just responsible business practice, but also very smart business practice, right? Because your cost of feed becomes just so much more lesser in the process, right? When you're going out producing these films. You've raised around recently, right? This has largely been a friends and family round. Your first round at GrowIt. You're a good growing business, a profitable business. Possibly the space that you are in, of course, the possibility of expansion of margins is a difficult part of it, right? And that's largely because it's an input, and agri in any case is it's infested with many other problems, right? From a pricing standpoint. how has that experience been? What are the larger plans with the money that you've made as of December?
Right. So we just raised our first round in March. The main reason for raising a round was to get a few people associated with us who can help, who have certain level of understanding of the agri sector, who have belief in the idea of what we are doing, and who are able to connect a lot of dots for us, and help us penetrate into certain segments. So for example, a couple of our investors are helping us in the agri input insurance part, where we are trying to curate certain insurances to protect the farmers against the natural calamities that are increasing day by day. The heat strokes, the unseasonal rains, and those kind of things. There are a few investors who are helping us open up, another new market spaces. Like, one of our investors is helping us open up the entire state of Haryana for us. So he is helping us penetrate the Haryana state. So, those are the kind of synergies that we're trying to build here.
More strategic.
Yeah. So you rightly said, the price is always going to be a challenge when we work on the agri sector, but it also brings along with it a lot of value. Because India being such a large country and heavily dependent on agriculture, it brings up huge volumes. And I think lesser. So we are not a very, very high margin sort of a startup, but what we do is we have a very high volume. So that is where we sort of bring in our profitability. And the idea for fundraise was also to increase our reach in terms of the franchise stores. Because what we are doing is, with the franchise stores, as I said, we are creating demo farms, and those demo farms require those meetings and stuff. So penetration of education is educating the farmers is something which requires a lot of funds, and that is what our key area of deployment of these funds is.
Interesting, super. So a related question, and we're towards the end of our conversation. What are the next 2.5 years like, right? You're in a high momentum zone, you're in a growth momentum zone. The good part is in the markets have opened up. But also what has happened is the last 2 years have prepped us, right? Supply chain is kind of gotten optimized, logistics is gotten digitized to a large extent, right? And that brings in a lot of efficiency for a lot of players, right? Agri, it just is so much more pertinent and important, right? So you have the right foundation right now. For offtake, right? What are the next 2.5 years like? What are the milestones that you've set?
But they're going to be fantastic. Not just 2 years, but for the next 10 years, I think agri space is in a fantastic space right now. With a lot of privatization coming in, the farm laws opening up, the law changes. With the privatization, what happens is a lot of money comes in and a lot of technology is being adopted. Like, you're hearing about drone technology is being used now. Those are the kind of things that are coming into picture, and I think that is what will take agriculture in India forward. And the best part is that the farmers in India are very, very adaptable. They're very open to using those technologies and experimenting with their own farms. So that is a good part. And as far as GrowIt is concerned, so what we are targeting till now, we have touched about 15 to 20,000 farmers across 4 states. In the next 2 to 3 years, what we are targeting is close to 1.5 to 2 lakh farmers. And I'm talking about service farmers, not just the farmers who have probably been on our YouTube channels or something like that. So that number is going to be far huger. So what we're targeting is about 1.5 to 2 lakh farmers who are actually being served by us and who have actually adopted these technologies. So that is what we're looking at. And I think if we are able to do that successfully, the revenue of the company that we're looking at, the planned revenue of the company is close to 200 to 250 crores. So that is what we're looking at in a couple of years' time.
Interesting. And I think you are at you already have some numbers going, right? Which is a great like I said, right, a solid foundation for future growth, right? And I think, like I said, right, this ecosystem is moving in a way where a lot of these pieces are aligning themselves, right, for adoption of newer technologies like the ones you are sort of playing, right? I think sort of in this discussion, I think one thing that has been absolutely heartening to see, right, is very older world business thought process, growth, momentum, company, right? Typically there's a trade-off, right? There's a trade-off between revenue and engagement, right? And engagement often wins, right? Because it's a great starting point, right? And I think it helps you build the trust, right? I think in your case, what has been absolutely spectacular is the balance with which we're trying to sort of do both, right? Being information-led, but simultaneously also providing the right inputs, being the source of right inputs. I say that very judiciously, largely because I think one thing which is very, very clear is that you're not only limited to now, not only limited to say these covers that you make. I think
one thing which is very clear is that the spectrum of services that you're offering is growing much faster, right? You're looking at regions, you're looking at other products, and on the insurance side of it, you're looking at partnerships, right? That helps you get a stronger, thicker feet in the ground. While the business is not necessarily high margin to start with, right? When you acquire the customer and people like costing the first year of relationship, second year of relationship, eventually it'll be much thicker, right? Because sustainability and recycling helps you control those input costs, right? Which is just so much more important. That's a huge evolution in the last weeks, right? Saurabh, this has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for doing this, right? We wish you all the very best for it. And all the good work that you're doing. And, this has been a more macro discussion. I'd love to do a micro discussion, right? Where we'll cover some very, very specific problems, right? I mean, agri is something which, like I said, right, continues to be a massive, area with very critical problems, right? And these are problems that only become larger, right? As soon as you start looking in various states and economies, right? Because the soil quality, the moisture quality, the availability of linkages, right? Pipelines, so on and so forth, right? A lot of that gets very, very complicated. Financing just doubles up that entire problem, right? And it's an ever-growing and a going conversation, right? You cannot complete all of that in one conversation. But a great start, sort of. I look forward to having much more where we discuss very specific issues in the larger plans which we have for. Saurabh, it was a pleasure to have you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.